a pig ear. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. I can't wait to go home and start that now. I'm so excited. We are on, no, we're not on part 2. I don't know why I read 36. Nothing really happened. But I am scared for Kale and Adian because they are discovering so much, and I feel like the more they know, the more they are in danger, which terrifies me to think about. But yeah, it's starting to unravel for them, and I'm scared for them. Chapter 37 is where we are, though. And I think we're with Manon. Yep, there she is. Manon. We're with Manon. Okay, hold on. Let me drink water before I start because I talked a lot. 37, 39. Yeah. It was 2 weeks of training for Manon and her 13. 2 weeks of waking up before the sun to fly each canyon run, to master it as one unit. 2 weeks of scratches and sprained limbs, of near deaths from falls or the wyverns squabbling or just stupid miscalculation. But slowly, they developed instincts, not just as a fighting unit, but as individual riders and mounts. Manon didn't like the thought of the mounts eating the foul-tasting meat raised within the mountain, so twice a day they hunted the mountain goats, swooping to pluck them off the mountainsides. It wasn't long before the witches started eating the goats themselves, building hasty fires in the mountain passes to cook their breakfast and evening meals. Manon didn't want any of them, mounts or riders, taking another bite of the food given to them by the king's men, or tasting the men themselves. If it smelled and tasted strange, odds were something was wrong with it. She didn't know if it was the fresh meat or the extra lessons, but the 13 were starting to outpace every coven, to the point where Manon ordered the 13 to hold back whenever the Yellowlegs gathered to watch their lessons. Abraxas was still a problem. She hadn't dared take the crossing with him, as his wings, while slightly stronger, weren't better by much, at least not enough to brave the sheer plunge through the narrow pass. Manon had been chewing it over every night with the 13 gathered in her room to compare notes about flying, their iron nails glinting as they used their hands to demonstrate the ways they taught their wyverns to bank, to take off, to do some fancy maneuver. For all the excitement, they were exhausted. Even the lofty-headed blue bloods had their tempers on tight leashes, and Manon had been called in a dozen times now to break apart brawls. Manon used her downtime to see Abraxas, to check on his iron claws and teeth, to take him out for extra rides when everyone else had passed out in their cots. He needed as much training as he could get, and she liked the quiet and stillness of the night, with the silvered mountain peaks and the river of stars above, even if it made waking up the next day difficult. So, after braving the wrath of her grandmother, Manon won 2 days off for the Blackbeaks, convincing her that if they didn't rest, there would be outright war in the middle of the mess hall, and the king wouldn't have an aerial cavalry left to ride his wyverns into battle. They got 2 days to sleep and eat and see to whatever needs only the men across the mountain could provide. That was something a good number of the 13 were doing, as she'd seen Vesta, Lynn, Asterin, and the demon twins stalking across the bridge. No sleeping for Manon today or tomorrow. No eating or bedding men. No, she was taking Abraxas out into the ruins. He was already saddled, and Manon ensured Windcleaver was tightly strapped to her back as she mounted him. The saddlebags were an unexpected weight behind her, and she made a note to start training the 13 and the rest of the covens with them. If they were to be an army, then they'd carry their supplies, as most soldiers did, and training with weights would make them faster when it came time to fly without them. "You sure I can convince you not to go?" the overseer said as she paused at the back gates. "You know the stories as well as I do. This won't come without a cost." "His wings are weak, and so far everything else we've tried to reinforce them has failed," she said. "It might be the only material that could patch up his wings and withstand the winds. As I don't see any markets nearby, I suppose I'll have to go directly to the source." The overseer frowned at the gray sky beyond. "Bad day for flying. Storm's coming. It's the only day I have." Even as she said it, she wished that she could take the 13 into the skies when the storm hit, to train them in that too. "Be careful, and think through any bargain they offer you. If I wanted your advice, I'd ask for it, mortal," she said, but he was right. Still, Manon led Abraxas out through the gates into their usual takeoff spot. They had a long way to fly today, and tomorrow, all the way to the edge of the Rune Mountains, to find spider silk and the legendary Stygian spiders, large as I can't do spiders. I can't do spiders. Y'all, I can't do spiders. As large as horses and deadlier than poison. Who wove it? Oh my god. If she meets one of them, I can't do it, y'all. The storm hit right as Manon and Abraxas circled the westernmost outcropping of the ruins. Through the icy rain lashing her face and soaking right through her layers of clothes, she could see that the mist hung low over the mountains, veiling much of the ashy gray, jagged labyrinth below. With the rising winds and lightning that thrashing around them, Manon grounded Abraxas on the only open bit of land she could spot. She'd wait until the storm had passed, and then they would take to the skies and scan the area until they found the spiders. I don't want to do spiders. Or at least clues about their whereabouts, mostly in the form of bones, she expected. But the storm continued, and though she and Abraxas pressed themselves into the side of a little cliff, it did nothing to shield them. She would have preferred snow over this freezing rain, which came with so much wind that she couldn't light a fire. Night fell swiftly, thanks to the storm, and Manon had to put her iron teeth away to keep them from chattering right through her lip. Her hood was useless, soaked and dripping in her eyes, and even Abraxas had curled into as tight a ball as he could against the storm. Stupid, horrible idea. She pulled a goat leg from a saddlebag and tossed it to Abraxas, who uncurled himself long enough to chomp it down, and then went right back to shielding himself against the storm. She cursed herself for a fool as she choked down on her own meal of soggy bread and a freezing apple, then gnawed on a bit of cheese. It was worth it. To secure victory for the 13, to be wing leader, one night in a storm was nothing. She'd been through worse, trapped in snowy mountain passes with fewer layers of clothes, no way out and no food. She'd survived storms some witches didn't awaken from the next morning, but she still would have preferred snow. Manon studied the labyrinth of rock around them. She could feel eyes out there, observing, yet nothing came closer, nothing dared. So, after a while, she curled on her side, just like Abraxas, her head and chest angled toward the cliff face, and tucked her arms across herself, holding tight. Mercifully, it stopped raining in the night, or at least the angle of the wind shifted to stop pounding on them. She slept better after that, but she still shook from the cold, though it felt slightly warmer. Those small hints of warmth and dryness were probably what kept her from shaking to death or getting ill, she realized as she dozed off, awakening in the gray light of dawn. When she opened her eyes, she was in shadow. Shadow, but dry and warm, thanks to the massive wing shielding her from the elements and the heat of Abraxas's breath filling the space like a little furnace. Aww. He was still snoozing, a deep, heavy sleep. She had to brush ice crystals off his outstretched wing before he came awake. Aww. Ow, fuck, my leg just got stuck to that. The storm had cleared and the skies were an untamed blue, clear enough that they only needed to circle the western outcropping of the ruins once before Manon spotted what she'd been looking for. Not just bones, but trees shrouded in dusty gray webs like mourning widows. It wasn't spider silk, she saw as Abraxas swooped low, gliding over the trees. They were only ordinary webs. If you could call an entire mountain wood shrouded in webs ordinary. Abraxas growled every so often at something below, shadows or whispers she couldn't see. But she did notice the crawling on the... Oh my god. Crawling on the branches. Spiders of every shape and size, as if they had all been summoned here to live under the protection of their massive brethren, y'all. Oh my god. It took them half the morning to find the ashen mountain caves hovering above the veiled wood, with bare bones littered the ground. She circled a few times, then set Abraxas down on an outcropping of stone at one of the cave mouths. The cliff face behind them a sheer plunge to a dried-out ravine below. Abraxas paced like a mountain cat, tail lashing this way and that as he watched the cave. She pointed to the edge of the cliff. Enough. Sit down and stop moving. You know why we're here, so don't ruin it. He huffed but plopped down, shooting grayish dust into the air. He draped his long tail along the length of the cliff's edge, a physical barrier between Manon and the plunge. Manon stared him down for a moment before an otherworldly, feminine laugh flittered from the cave mouth. A what? Now that beast is one we have not seen for an age. Manon kept her face blank. The light was bright enough to reveal several ancient, merciless eyes looming within the cave mouth, and 3 massive shadows lurking behind. The voice said, closer now, pincers clicking like an accompanying drum. And it has been an age since we dealt with the Iron Teeth. Manon didn't dare touch Windcleaver as she said, the world is changing, sister. Sister? The spiders can talk? The spiders can talk? Sister, the spider mused. I suppose we are sisters, you and I. 2 faces of the same dark coin, from the same dark maker. Sisters in spirit, if not in flesh. Then she emerged into the murky light, the mist sweeping past her like a pilgrimage of phantom souls. She was black and gray, and the sheer mass of her was enough to make Manon's mouth go dry. Despite the size, she was elegantly built. Her legs long and smooth, her body streamlined and gleaming, glorious. Abraxas let out a soft growl, but Manon held out a hand to silence him. I see now, Manon said softly, why my blue-blood sisters still worship you. Do they now? The spider remained motionless, but the 3 behind her crept closer, silent and observing with their many dark eyes. We can hardly recall the last time the blue-blood priestesses brought their sacrifices to our foothills. We do miss them. Manon smiled tightly. I can think of a few I'd like to send your way. A soft, wicked laugh. A black beak, no doubt. Those 8 massive eyes took her in, swallowed her whole. Your hair reminds me of our silk. I suppose I should be flattered. Tell me your name, Blackbeak. My name does not matter, Manon said. I've come to bargain. What would a Blackbeak witch want with our precious silk? She turned to reveal the vigilant Abraxas, his focus pinned on the massive spider, tense from the tip of his nose to his iron-spiked tail. His wings need reinforcement. I heard the legends and wondered if your silk might help. We have bartered our silk to merchants and thieves and kings to be spun into dresses and veils and sails, but never for wings. I'll need 10 yards of it, woven bolts, if you have them. The spider seemed to still further. Men have sacrificed their lives for a yard. Name your price. 10 yards. She turned to the 3 waiting behind caves across the ravine. Caves across the ravine. Are we back? I'm about to dump TikTok. Okay. Alright. I'll keep an eye on it. Okay. Gonna keep an eye on it, just in case. Such a delightfully nasty curse. You won the land, only for the cunning Crochans to curse it beyond use. Have you seen the wastes these days? No, Manon said. I've not yet been to our home. A merchant came by a few years ago. He told me there was a mortal high king who had set himself up there. But I heard a whisper on the wind recently that said he'd been disposed by a young woman with wine-red hair, who now calls herself their high queen. Manon bristled. Sorry. High Queen of the Wastes, indeed. She would be the first Manon would kill when she returned to reclaim the land, when she finally saw it with her own eyes, breathed in its smells, and beheld its untamable beauty. A strange place, the Wastes, the spider continued. The merchant himself was from there, a former shapeshifter, lost his gifts, just like all of you truly mortal things. He was stuck in a man's body. Thankfully, thankfully, but he did not realize that when he sold me 20 years of his life, some of his gifts passed to me. I can't use them, of course, but I do wonder what it would be like to see the world through your pretty eyes, to touch a human man. I can't get that wine red hair who calls herself High Queen out of my mind. Because... never mind. The hair on Manon's neck rose. Here we are, the spider said, as the three approached, a bolt of silk flowing between them like a river of light and color. Manon's breath caught. Isn't it magnificent? Some of the finest weaving I've ever done. Glorious, Manon admitted. Your price? The spider stared at her for a long time. What price could I ask of a long-lived witch? 20 years of your lifespan is nothing to you, even with magic aging you like any ordinary woman. And your dreams, what dark, horrible dreams they must be, Blackbeak. I do not think I should like to eat them. Not those dreams. The spider came closer. But what of your face? What if I took your beauty? I do not think I'd walk away if you took my face. The spider laughed. Oh, I don't mean your literal face, but the color of your skin, the hue of your burnt gold eyes, the way your hair catches the light, like moonlight on snow. Those things I could take. That beauty could win you a king. Perhaps if magic returns, I'll use it for my woman's body. Perhaps I'll win a king of my very own. Mana didn't particularly care about her beauty, weapon though it was, but she wasn't about to say that, or to offer it without bargaining. I'd like to inspect the silk first. Cut a swatch, the spider ordered the three, who gently set down the yards of silk, while one sliced off a perfect square. Men had killed for smaller amounts. And here they were, cutting it as if it were ordinary wool. Manon tried not to think about the size of the pincer that extended it to her. She stalked off the cliff edge. She stalked to the cliff edge, stepping over Abraxas's tail as she held the silk to the light. Darkness embraced her. It sparkled. She tugged it. Flexible, but strong as steel. Impossibly light, but... There's an imperfection here. Can I expect the rest of it to be similarly marred? The spider hissed, and the ground thudded as she neared. Abraxas stopped her with a warning growl that set the other three coming up behind her. Guards, then. But Manon held up the swatch to the light. Look, Manon said, pointing to a vein of color running through it. That's no imperfection, the spider snapped. Abraxas's tail curled around Manon, a shield between her and the spiders, bringing her closer to the wall of his body. Manon held it higher, angling it toward the sun. Look in the better light. You think I'm going to give away my beauty for a second-rate weaving? Second-rate? The spider seethed. Abraxas's tail curled tighter. No. It appears I'm mistaken. Manon lowered her arms, smiling. It seems I'm not in the bargaining mood today. The spiders, now standing along the cliff's edge, didn't even have the time to move as Abraxas's tail unwound like a whip and slammed into them. They went flying into the ravine, shrieking. Manon didn't waste a second as she stuffed the remaining yards of silk into the empty saddlebags. She mounted Abraxas, and they leapt into the air. The cliff, the perfect takeoff spot, just as she planned. A perfect trap for those foolish, ancient monsters. Damn! Not her fucking stealing. As she should. My God. Chapter 38. I'm scared for her now. Spiders are scary. Manon gave a foot of spider silk to the overseer after he carefully grafted it onto Abraxas's wing. She'd gotten extra, lots of it, in case it ever wore down, and it was now locked in the false bottom of a trunk. She told no one where she had been, or why Abraxas's wings now shimmered in a certain light. Asterin would have murdered her for the risk, and her grandmother would have butchered Asterin for not being there. Manon was in no mood to replace her second and find a new member for the 13. Once Abraxas had healed, Manon brought him to the mouth of the northern fang to try the crossing. Before, his wings had been too weak to attempt the plunge. But with the silk reinforcements, he'd stand a far greater chance. But the risk remained. which was why Astrid and Sorel waited behind her, already on their mounts. If things went wrong, if Abraxas couldn't pull up or the silk failed, she was to jump away from him, let him die, while one of them caught her in the claws of their wyverns. Manon wasn't too keen on that plan, but it was the only way Astrid and Sorel would agree to let her do it. Though Manon was the Blackbeak heir, they would have locked her in a wyvern pen rather than let her make the crossing without the proper precautions. She might have called them soft-hearted and given them the beatings they deserved, but it was smart. Tensions were worse than ever, and she wouldn't put it past the Yellowlegs heir to spook Abraxas during the crossing. Manon nodded her readiness to her second and third before approaching her beast. Not many had gathered, but Iskra was on the viewing platform, smiling faintly. Manon checked the stirrups, the saddle, and the reins one more time, Abraxas tense and snarling. "Let's go," she said to him, pulling the reins to lead him a bit farther ahead so she could mount him. He still had plenty of space to get a running start, but with his new wings she knew he would be fine. They'd done steep plunges and hard upswings before. "Cowardly beast!" "Stop it," she said, moving to climb into the saddle instead. "Your wings are fine now." She reached for his haunch, but he reared away, the ground shaking as he slammed down. Behind her, Astrid and Sorel murmured to their mounts, who had skittered back and snapped at Abraxas and at each other. There was a soft laugh from the viewing platform, and Manon's teeth popped down. "Abraxas, now!" She reached for the saddle again. He bucked away, slamming into the wall and shrinking back. One of the men brought out a whip, but she held out a hand. "Don't take another step," she snapped, iron nails out. Whips only made Abraxas more uncontrollable. She turned to her mount. "You rutting coward," she hissed at the beast, pointing to the crossing. "Get back in line." Abraxas met her stare, refusing to back down. "Get in line, Abraxas!" "He can't understand you," Astrid said quietly. "Yes, he—" Manon shut her mouth. She hadn't told them that theory yet. Not yet. She turned back to the wyvern. "If you don't let me into that saddle and make that jump, I'm going to have you confined to the darkest, smallest pit in this bloody mountain." He bared his teeth. She bared hers. The staring contest lasted for a full minute, one humiliating, enraging minute. "Fine," she spat, turning from the beast. He was a waste of her time. "Have him locked up wherever he'll be the most miserable," she said to the overseer. "He's not coming out until he's willing to make the crossing." The overseer gaped, and Manon snapped her fingers at Astrid and Sorel to signal them to dismount. She'd never hear the end of this, not from her grandmother, or from the Yellowleg witches, or from Iskra, who was already making her way across the floor to the pit. "Why don't you stay, Manon?" Iskra called. I could show your wyvern how it's done." "Keep walking," Sorel murmured to Manon, but she didn't need a reminder. "They say it's not the beasts who are the problem, but the riders," Iskra went on, loud enough for everyone to hear. Manon didn't turn. She didn't want to see them take Abraxas back to the gate, to whatever hole they'd lock him in. Stupid, useless beast. "Though," Iskra said thoughtfully, "perhaps your mount needs a bit of discipline." "Let's go," Sorel coaxed, pressing in tight to Manon's side. Astrid walked a step behind, guarding Manon's back. "Give that to me," Iskra barked at someone. "He just needs the right encouragement." She's not. A whip snapped from behind them, and there was a roar of pain and fear. Manon stopped dead. Abraxas was huddling against the wall. Iskra stood before him, whip bloody from the line she'd sliced down his face. Narrowly missing his eye. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna start crying. Her iron teeth shining bright. Iskra smiled at Manon as she raised the whip again and struck. Abraxas yelped. Astrid and Sorel weren't fast enough to stop Manon as she hurtled past and tackled Iskra. Teeth and nails out, they rolled across the dirt floor, flipping and shredding and biting. Manon thought she might be roaring so loud the hall shook. Feet slammed into her stomach and the air shot out of her as Iskra kicked her off. Manon hit the earth, spat out a mouthful of blue blood, and was up in a heartbeat. The Yellowleg's air slashed with an iron-tipped hand A blow that could have severed through bone and flesh. Manon ducked past her guard and threw Iskra onto the unforgiving stone. Iskra groaned above the shouts of the swarming witches, and Manon brought her fist down onto her face. Her knuckles howled in pain, but all she could see was that whip, the pain in Abraxas's eyes, the fear. Struggling against Manon's weight, Iskra swiped at her face. Manon reeled back, the blow cutting down her neck. She didn't quite feel the stinging, or the warm trickle of blood. She just drew back her fist, knee digging harder into Iskra's chest, and struck, again and again. She lifted her aching fist once more, but there were hands at her wrist, under her arms, hauling her off. Manon thrashed against them, still screaming, the sound wordless and endless. "Manon!" Sorel roared in her ear, and nails cut into her shoulder, not hard enough to damage, but to make her pause, to realize there were witches everywhere, in the pit and in the viewing platform, gaping. Sword raised, Astrid was standing between her and Iskra, on the ground, face bloodied and swollen, her own second sword out and poised to meet Astrid's. "He's fine," Sorel said, squeezing her tighter. "Abraxas is fine, Manon. Look at him. Look at him and see that he's fine." Breathing through her mouth, thanks to her blood-clogged nose, Manon obeyed and found him crouching, eyes wide, and on her. His wound had already clotted. Iskra hadn't moved an inch from where Manon had thrown her onto the floor, but Astrid and the other second were growling, ready to launch into another fight that might very well rip this mountain apart. Enough. Manon shook off Sorel's firm grip. Everyone went dead silent as Manon wiped her bloody nose and mouth on the back of her wrist. Iskra snarled at her from the floor, blood from her broken nose leaking onto her cut lip. "You touch him again," Manon said, "and I'll drink the marrow from your bones." The yellow from your bones. The yellow leg's air got a second beating that night. If it works, I'm gonna be so pissed. Oh my god, I was right. I guess I can't have my spot by the lake. Every time I go to the spot by the lake, it does this. I don't want to come here. I wanted my lake view. There. I guess. I can't have anything nice in this house. Are we back? It says I'm back, but I don't know if I'm back for y'all. Oh, we're good? Okay, good. Okay, I'm gonna continue now. Okay. But Petra paused at the bars, and it was then that Manon noticed the goat's leg in her second's arms. "I heard the fight was something to behold," Petra said, keeping a respectful distance from Manon and the open door to the pen. Petra smiled faintly. "Iskra looks worse." Manon flicked her brows up, though the motion made her face throb. Petra held out a hand to her second, and the witch passed her the leg of meat. "I also heard that you're 13 and your mounts only eat the meat they catch. My Keely caught this on our morning flight. She wanted to share with Abraxas. I don't accept meat from rival clans." "Are we rivals?" Petra asked. "I thought the King of Ardalan had convinced us to fly under one banner again." Manon took a long breath. "What do you want? I have training in 10 minutes. Petra's second bristled, but the air smiled. "I told you. My Keely wants to give this to him." "Oh, she told you," Manon sneered. Petra cocked her head. "Doesn't your wyvern talk to you?" Abraxas was watching with as much awareness as the other witches. "They don't talk." Petra shrugged, tapping a hand casually over her heart. "Don't they?" She left the goat leg before walking off into the raucous gloom of the pens. Manon threw the meat away. Why would she do that? Chapter 39. Oh, my nose just popped. Oh, I just cracked my nose. Tell me about how you learned to tattoo. No. Hunched. I know exactly what we're talking about. Hunched over the wooden table in Rowan's room a night after their encounter with the creature in the lake, Selena looked up from where she held the bone-handled needle over her wrist. "If you don't answer my questions, I might very well make a mistake," and she lowered the tattooing needle to his tan, muscled arm for emphasis. Rowan, to her surprise, let out a huff that might have been a laugh. She figured it was a good sign that he'd asked her to help shade in the parts of his arm he couldn't reach himself. The tattoo around his wrist needed to be re-inked now that the wounds from her burning him had faded. "Did you learn from someone? Master and apprentice and all that?" He gave her a rather incredulous look. "Yes, master and apprentice and all that. In the war camps, we had a commander who used to tattoo the number of enemies he'd killed on his flesh. Sometimes he'd write the whole story of a battle. All the young soldiers were enamored of it, and I convinced him to teach me. With that legendary charm of yours, I suppose. That earned her a half-smile, at least. Just fill in the spots where a hiss as she took the needle and little mallet and made another dark, inky mark in him. Good. It's the right depth. With his immortal, fast-healing body, Rowan's ink was mixed with salt and powdered iron to keep the magic in his blood from wiping away any trace of that tattoo. She'd awoken that morning feeling clear. The grief and pain were still there, writhing inside her, but for the first time in a long while, she felt as though she could see, as though she could breathe. So happy for her. Focusing on keeping her hands steady, she made another little mark, then another. "Tell me about your family." "Tell me about yours and I'll tell you about mine," he said through gritted teeth as she kept going. He'd instructed her thoroughly before he had let her take the needles to his skin. "Fine. Are your parents alive?" A stupid, dangerous question to ask, given what had happened with his mate, but there was no grief in his face as he shook his head. "My parents were very old when they conceived me. Not old in the human sense, she knew. I was their only child in the millennia they'd been mated, They faded into the afterworld before I reached my second decade." Before she could think more on that interesting, different way of describing death, Rowan said, "You had no siblings." She focused on her work as she let out the thinnest tendril of memory. "My mother, thanks to her Fae heritage, had a difficult time with the pregnancy. She stopped breathing during labor. They said it was my father's will that kept her tethered to this world. I don't know if she even could have conceived again after that, so no siblings, but God, she should shut her mouth. But I had a cousin. He was 5 years older than me, and we fought and loved each other like siblings. Adian. She hadn't spoken that name aloud in 10 years, but she'd heard it and seen it in papers. She had to set down the needle and mallet and flex her fingers. I don't know what happened, but they started saying his name as a skilled general in the king's army. She had failed Adian so unforgivably that she couldn't bring herself to blame or to test him for what he'd become. She'd avoided learning any details about what exactly he'd done in the north all these years. Adian had been fiercely, wildly loyal to Terrasim as a child. She didn't want to know what he'd been forced to do, what had happened to him to change that. It was by luck, or fate, or something else entirely that he had never been in the castle when she was there. Because not only would he have recognized her, but if he knew what she had done with her life, his hatred would make Rowan's look pleasant, probably. Rowan's features were set in a mask of contemplation as he said, "I think facing my cousin after everything would be the worst of it. Worse than facing the king. There was nothing she could say or do to atone for what she'd become while the kingdom fell into ruin and their people were slaughtered or enslaved." That's so funny because that's how they both feel about each other. They both... Stop. I can't wait for their reunion. I can't wait for their reunion. "Keep working," Rowan said, jerking his chin at the tool sitting in her lap. She obeyed, and he hissed again at the first prick. "Do you think," he said after a moment, "your cousin would kill you, or help you? An army like his could change the tide of any war." A chill went down her spine at that word. War. I don't know what he would think of me, or where his loyalties lie, and I'd rather not know. Ever. Though their eyes were identical, their bloodlines were distant enough that she'd heard servants and courtiers alike pondering the usefulness of a Galathinius Ash River union someday. The idea was as laughable now as it had been 10 years ago. There she goes again, reminding me that they're related. Like I needed to be reminded. Do you have cousins? She asked. Too many. Mora's line was always the most widespread, and my meddlesome, gossiping cousins make my visits to Dornell irksome. She smiled a little at the thought. Sorry if you can hear my stomach growling. You'd probably get along with my cousins, he said. Especially with the snooping. She paused her inking and squeezed his hand hard enough to hurt anyone but an immortal. You're one to talk, Prince. I've never been asked so many questions in my life. Not quite true, but not quite an exaggeration either. No one had ever asked her these questions, and she'd never told anyone the answers. He bared his teeth, though she knew he didn't mean it, and glanced meaningfully at his wrist. Hurry up, Princess. I want to go to bed at some point before dawn. She used her free hand to make a particularly vulgar gesture, and when he caught it with his own, teeth still out. That is not very queenly. Then it's good I'm not a queen, isn't it? But he wouldn't let go of her hand. You have sworn to free your friend's kingdom and save the world, but will not even consider your own lands. What scares you about seizing your birthright? The king? Facing what remains of your court? He kept his face so close to hers that she could see the flecks of brown in his green eyes. Give me one good reason why you won't take back your throne. One good reason, and I'll keep my mouth shut about it. She weighed the earnestness in his gaze, his breathing, and then said, Because if I free Ilwi and destroy the king as Selena, I can go anywhere after that. The crown, my crown, is just another set of shackles. It was selfish and horrible, but it was true. Nehemiah, long ago, had once said as much. It was her most ardent and selfish wish to be ordinary, without the weight of her crown. Had her friend known how deeply those words had echoed in her? She waited for the scolding, saw it simmering in Rowan's eyes. But then he quietly said, What do you mean, another set of shackles? He loosened his grip to reveal the 2 thin bands of scars that wrapped around her wrist. His mouth tightened, and she yanked her wrist back hard enough that he let go. Nothing, she said. Arabin, my master, liked to use them for training every now and then. Arabin had chained her to make her learn how to get free, but the shackles at Endivir had been crafted with people like her in mind. It wasn't until Kale had removed them that she'd gotten out. She didn't want Rowan knowing that. Any of it. Anger and hatred she could handle, but pity. And she couldn't talk about Kale, couldn't explain just how much he had rebuilt and then shattered her heart. Not without explaining Endivir. Not without explaining how, one day, she didn't know how distant. She was going back to Endivir and freeing them all. Each and every slave, even if she had to unshackle them all herself. Selena went back to her work, and Rowan's face remained tight, as if he could smell her half-truth. Why did you stay with Arabin? I knew I wanted 2 things. First, to disappear from the world and from my enemies, but... it was hard to look in his eye. It was hard to look him in the eye. I wanted to hide from myself, mostly. I convinced myself I should disappear because the second thing I wanted, even then, was to be able to someday hurt people the way I had been hurt, and it turned out that I was very, very good at it. If he had tossed me away, I would either have died or wound up with the rebels. If I had grown up with them, I probably would have been found by the king and slaughtered, or I would have grown up so hateful that I would have been killing Ardalanian soldiers from a young age. His brows rose, and she clicked her tongue. You thought I was just going to spread my whole history at your feet the moment I met you? I'm sure you have even more stories than I do, so stop looking so surprised. Maybe we should just go back to beating each other into a pulp. His eyes gleamed with near predatory intent. Oh, God. Oh, not a chance, Princess. You can tell me what you want, when you want, but there's no going back now. Idiots. God, I hate men. She lifted her tool again. I'm sure your other friends just adore having you around. A feral smile, and he grabbed her by the chin, not hard enough to hurt, but to get her to look at him. First thing, he breathed. We're not friends. I'm still training you, and that means you're still under my command. The flicker of hurt must have shown because he leaned closer, his grip tightening on her jaw. Second, whatever we are, whatever this is, I'm still figuring it out too. So if I'm going to give you the space you deserve to sort yourself out, then you can damn well give it to me. She studied him for a moment, their breath mingling. Deal, she said. Okay, Cersei and Jaime. Okay, Cersei and Jaime. I'm sorry. I just read the first sentence of the next chapter on accident. Not on accident. I saw Dorian and I got nosy. Y'all. Oh, this next chapter is long. Never mind. I was gonna say I want to read this next chapter just because of it. Oh my god! Y'all. You can read the first section? Okay, I will. Okay! Say less! Chapter 40. Do it. Ah! Oh my god! Shut up, because why don't they end up together? I feel like Dorian pushes her away because he's scared for her safety. I feel like he pushes her away. Sarah, is 40 an alone chapter? Y'all. Yes? Oh, okay. Okay, then I'll read the first part. Chapter 40. Tell me your greatest wish, Dorian murmured into Sorcia's hair as he entwined their fingers, marveling at the smoothness of her tan skin against the calluses of his. Such pretty hands, like mourning doves. She smiled into his chest. I don't have a greatest wish. Shut up! They're so cute! Liar. He kissed her hair. You're the world's worst liar. She turned toward the window of his bedroom, the morning light making her dark hair glow. It had been 2 weeks since that night she'd kissed him. 2 weeks since she started creeping up here after the castle had gone to sleep. They'd been sharing a bed, though not in the manner he still yearned to, and he detested the sneaking and the hiding. But she'd lose her position if they were found out. With him being who he was, he could bring down a world of trouble on her just for being associated with him. His mother alone would find ways to get her shipped off somewhere. Oh, is that what happens? Is that what happens? Tell me, he said again, bending to snatch a kiss. Tell me and I'll make it happen. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Yo! Oh my god! I can't. I'm gonna rip this book apart! I'm gonna rip it! He'd always been generous with his lovers. Usually he gave them gifts to keep them from complaining when he lost interest, but this time he genuinely wanted to give her things. He had tried giving her jewelry and clothes, but she had refused it all, so he'd taken to giving her hard-to-come-by herbs and books. Oh my god! Oh my god! And special tools for her workroom. She tried to refuse those, but he'd worn her down quickly, mostly by kissing away her protest. Oh my god! Shut up! I'm convinced the entire internet was lying to me about them not ending up together. It's at this point, y'all, oh my god! I really hope that the reason they don't end up together is not because of something sad. Like, I hope the reason they don't end up together is because they just realized it would never work. Or, you know, I don't know. But I'm really rooting for them, y'all. I'm really rooting for them. Ugh. And if I asked for the moon on a string, then I would start praying to Deanna. She smiled, but Dorian's own grin faded. Deanna, lady of the hunt. He usually tried not to think about Selena, Aelin, or whoever she was. Tried not to think about Kale and his lying, or Aedion and his treason. He wanted nothing to do with them, not now that Sorstra was with him. He'd been a fool once, swearing he would tear the world apart for Selena, a boy in love with a wildfire, or believing he was in love with one. Dorian? Sorstra pulled back to study his face. She looked at him the way he'd once caught Selena looking at Kale. He kissed her again, soft and lingering, and her body melted into his. He savored the silkiness of her skin as he ran a hand down her arm. She yanked back. "I have to go. I'm late," he groaned. It was indeed almost breakfast, and she would be noticed if she didn't leave. She shimmied out of his embrace and into her dress, and he helped her tie the stays in the back, always hiding. Was that to be his life? Not just the women he loved, but his magic, his true thoughts. Sorstra kissed him and was at the door, a hand on the knob. "My greatest wish," she said with a little smile, "is for a morning when I don't have to run out the door at first light." Before he could say anything, she was gone. Y'all, I can't! But he didn't know what he could say or do to make it happen, because Sorstra had her obligations and he had his. If he left to be with her, if he turned on his father, or if his magic was discovered, then his brother would become heir, and the thought of Holland as king one day, what he would do to their world, especially with their father's power. No, Dorian could not have the luxury of choosing, because there was no option. He was bound to his crown, and would be until the day he died. Love them so much, y'all. Stop. They're so cute. I can't. They're so... God damn it. Why can't I have the things that I want? Never mind. What I really want is Dorian. That's what I really want. I want Dorian for myself. I want him for me. I want my own Dorian. Stop. No, I'm glad I read that. They're so cute. We all want Dorian. For real though. I mean, a man whose room is a mess because of all the books that he has scattered all over the place. Dorian on one side and Az on the other. Exactly. You get it. Exactly. Dorian on one side, Asriel on the other. And I'm set. I'm in. That sounds like a good time. Yeah. And I know that man is packing. I know he is. He's so... I love him. Right now, besides Sam, he's my favorite out of all the men that have been introduced. So, and I think he's gonna stay like that until the end. I don't think I will meet someone. Okay, but him and Adian, I love Adian. It's like Sam, Dorian, Adian. That's my top 3 right now. Not Manon on top. Yeah, Manon is a top. She tops for sure. Never mind. I was gonna say something and I'm never mind. Dorian gets better. How does he literally get better than he already is right now? That Or does Sam, Dorian, and Rowan for me? Oh, it goes Sam, Dorian, and Rowan for me. See, Nico, you saying that you like Rowan is giving me some hope, because we have similar tastes, so, in like fictional men, so I'm using that as something to look forward to, getting to know this man that I'm not loving so far. But I do love Adian. And also, okay, I don't know how to put this. I thought that, I don't know how to put this. Maybe it's because it's been like, I don't know. Never mind. I'm not even going to say it. He's going to grab your heart in the next book. We'll see. We'll see. Someone I haven't met. I'm still so mad. TikTok spoiled the whole series for me. I'd be trying to avoid, but no one warns. I'm sorry. I know. I've had to go, I've had to basically stop reading my comments whenever I post something about this series, because especially on my Dorian and Sorcha video, oh my god, I didn't get anything spoiled for me past just knowing that they don't end up together, but I saw, because when I check my notifications, I still see the comments, so, but I'd skip them, but I had seen a few that were just like, if you're going to explicitly spoil something, at least put a spoiler warning or something like that. And I was like, dang, people are putting literal spoilers in the comments. So yeah, I've stopped reading, which is why I only replied to a few, and then I ghost the post. I stopped replying to comments after it's been a certain amount of time before other people find it, because yeah, it's so discouraging to read that. Someone just spoiled Kingdom of Ash. That is, I'm so sorry that happened to you, first of all, but I'm also very scared that that's gonna happen to me, or I'm scared of seeing something big, and so I just they were complaining about someone spoiling it for them, and they literally put no spoiler warning. Oh, that sucks. That really sucks. I know. I think yeah. If it's something I don't mind getting spoiled, or if it's something like yesterday I posted that theory about Sam being Selena's mate, and that was something I didn't mind people being like, oh, that's not true. So I was looking at the comments, and I think someone did say he's not, Sam's not Faye, and I was like, oh, okay. Things like that I don't mind, but bigger things that come on, dude. Crescent City got spoiled for me. The only thing I think I got spoiled for me is something about a guy named, or someone named Hunt. I don't even know if that's a boy or a girl. I just know that someone named Hunt. Never mind, I'm not gonna say it. Never mind, actually, I don't know it. Never mind. I don't even, see, I wouldn't even know how to say it, because it's out of context, so. I just know someone named Hunt. But I don't even know if he's from Crescent City. Are you going to read Crescent City at some point? I am. But upon seeing that it is very slow, I've been kind of putting it off. She has no choice but to. Same, the Crescent City 2 ending got spoiled for me. I was so mad. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, spoilers suck. If there's one thing that I don't understand why people do it. It's even when I tweet about these books, I still put spoiler warnings. You just never know. You never know what you're gonna see. Although I need some chapter reactions for CC. Okay. It's boring, but it's necessary. It's 100% worth how slow it starts. Okay, y'all. If I can read The Hobbit, I can read this. I can read anything. If I can read The Hobbit, I can read anything. Y'all, The Hobbit was so boring. The Hobbit was so boring. Yeah. Okay. Does Dorian and Sorcha breaking up happen in this book, y'all? So that I can emotionally prepare for it. I don't want them to break up. I don't want it to be another Selena situation where she realizes that she doesn't want him and she leaves him. Oh, there's a hawk on the floor. can't tell you. I don't know if I want to know, actually. How about this? I'll ask this. Does it happen in this book or the next book? Don't tell me which book. Just tell me if it happens in this book or the next book. That way I'll know it happens. It's happening soon, but I won't know for sure which book it happens in. Tell me if it happens in this book or the next book. Like, does it happen in either or? Don't say which book. Just either or. Yes or no. It will happen in one of the books. But in this book or another book? Maybe no, y'all don't understand. Y'all aren't getting it. No. Does it happen in the next two books? So the next two books being this book and the next book. Maybe it doesn't happen at all. Bye. How far along are you? No, I'm just kidding. That was a lame joke. I'm sorry. I am chapter 40. We're talking about Air of Fire, but I'm about a little bit over halfway through. And I'm talking about how much I love Dorian and Sorsha. Please don't spoil anything. I just want to... I really hope that it's not like... I'm not like... I don't know. Do you really want to know? Never mind. I don't want to know anymore. Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know. I just won't know. I just won't know. You don't want to know. Okay, I won't know. I just won't know. I guess. Maybe they never break up. Okay, but I know that they do. Either because they want to or because of circumstances outside of their control. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I'll just live in the moment until I'm forced to face the music. And I'm forced to hear reality. Also, for those of you that weren't here, y'all, look at this book I got in the mail. So it's like a PR package, right? And I got like a handwritten letter from the author. Maybe he gets back with Selena because she comes back. We both know that's not gonna happen. I got this bath thing. And can't be with her cousin. Anyway, not her brother. I got a bee keychain. I got a bookmark. We all know. Oh, honestly, it's kind of thick. I don't know. And y'all, look at this book. Look at this book because it's so fucking pretty. Look at this book. Look at this book. And look at it. Look at it, y'all. Look at this. It's so pretty. It's called The Kingdom of Stars and Shadows. From this cover alone, I'm so excited to read this. Sorry, Brie, you missed it. We're done. Sorry. It's so pretty. I can't wait to read this. And like, I'm so happy right now. This is so cute. This is so cute. They're my favorite sibling relationship. They're about as dysfunctional as all the other ones that I know, aka Jamie and Cersei. Also, y'all, Jamie and Cersei were... What the fuck was wrong with them? It's just I'm a huge Cersei stan. I love Cersei. The next live will be on Saturday. I will be reading on Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Time. 2 p.m. Central Time. Not 5:45 Central Time, but 2 p.m. And we will be reading 41 through 44. Thank you, Sarah. But yeah, I love Jamie and Cersei, but they were separately. I loved them separately. Except I didn't like Jamie until his redemption arc, and then I absolutely hated what they did with his character. I won't spoil anything, but I hated what they did with his character for the final season. Just like I hated what they did with literally every single person that ever existed in Game of Thrones. I hated what they did with their characters in the last season. Whatever, we're not going to talk about that. But together... And it's not even just because they're brother and sister. Like, those were toxic. Daenerys. Don't, because that is a can of worms that y'all don't want to open with me, because I could be here for hours talking about how Daenerys deserved so much more than what she got. You heard of the new Jon Snow show? Yes, and I haven't made my mind up on it. I really haven't made my mind up. I'm going to watch it, obviously, because I am hoping that they will be able to redeem themselves in some way, shape, or form. I never said that Dany and Jon are okay. Sarah, no, they're not. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't seen Game of Thrones, but when that happened, I was like, I couldn't. It was so disgusting. It was so disgusting. Anyway, for the new show, I am hopeful because Kit Harington brought his own team of writers, because he literally looked at D&D and was like, you bitches could not have fucked up a show more than how you fucked this show up. I'm bringing my own team into this. So I'm hoping that because Kit Harington is writing it, and because Kit Harington loved his show, right? He loved Game of Thrones. And he did not hide how disappointed and how disgusted he was with the ending of this. I'm hoping that he'll be able to get something out of this. Yeah, I know George R.R. Martin is involved, and I just want to slap his little old ass head and ask him what the fuck he's thinking being involved in this spin-off when he can't even fucking finish this fucking book series in the first place. No, the book series is not completed. And it's just like, why would you do this? Because he confirmed, George R.R. Martin confirmed that the ending of Game of Thrones, the show, was not what the ending of the series, the books, is supposed to be. Yeah, he's never gonna finish them. We're not getting another book from him ever again. Yeah, I will never forgive Jon Snow for what he did. I don't care what his reasoning was. I don't care what the fuck. I will never forgive him. And I will hate Jon Snow until my dying breath. And this spin-off show changes nothing for me. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go read my ARC tonight because I'm excited for it. So, I will see you guys on Saturday. Also, I might have COVID. Might. It's a very strong might. There was this teacher at work that tested positive yesterday. She tested positive yesterday. She's been at work all week. And she's known that she's had COVID in her house for a few weeks now. So, my mom works very closely with her. So my mom was exposed, and me and my mom carpool to work every day. So I am very close to my mom. So if my mom has it, then I probably have it. So if I end up getting sick, like, I'm sorry. Because last time I had COVID, it kicked my ass. And I was, like, bedridden for, like, 2 weeks. So, I might. Also, if I get COVID before my vacation, I'm going to be even more pissed. So, the doctor told me that I have to wait 3 days to take a test, which is ridiculous. But, well, he didn't tell me I had to, but he highly suggested that I not take a test right away. Because, if it comes back negative and then I end up having COVID, I'm going to think that I don't have COVID and whatever. He gave me this whole spiel, but I was just like, okay. He told me I have to wait 3 days. So this is day 2. So I'm testing tomorrow and I'm wearing a mask at work. So, like, I'm trying to be as safe as I can, but, yeah, it's just, if I end up getting sick, that's why I probably have COVID. Anyway, so I will hopefully see you guys on Saturday. I'm pretty sure I will. I feel fine. Did you do the cleanse in your car? Fuck, no, I didn't. I did not. And I have a whole bundle at home that I can do it with. I'll do it I won't do it today. I'll probably do it tomorrow. Stranger Things comes out tomorrow. For all my Stranger Things besties, y'all better prepare, because if Steve Harrington gets the chop, y'all will never hear the end of it from me. Y'all will never hear the end of it from me. Never, ever, 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 ever. You will never hear the end of it from me. I won't spoil. I'll put spoiler warnings before everything. And yeah. I will. I didn't spoil anything, Sarah. I promise. I won't spoil anything. I'm on episode 4, 5 of Kenobi. So I'm almost there. And I will message you separately in case someone else hasn't watched Kenobi, because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. But I haven't watched the first half of 4 yet. Okay, I won't say anything else about Stranger Things. Just know that I'm very excited for it to come out, and I will put spoiler warnings on my TikToks if I end up making a TikTok about Stranger Things. Yeah, but I'm on episode like 4 or 5. I don't remember which one. And I cry every single episode. Because I am so emotionally attached to Revenge of the Sith and like that whole saga, that whole, like, all those, what am I trying to say? The whole storyline from those movies. They hold such a special place in my heart. Anakin holds such a special place in my heart. That I get so emotional when I watch Kenobi. So I literally cry every single episode, because it's just, how did we get here? Yeah, those are what they get so much shit. Like, Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie. And I say that with no shame. But they get shat on by all the fucking dude bros. All, like, the dude bros that think it's just like a soap opera. It's literally like Revenge of the Sith again. No! Are you kidding me? No. I love them. I don't care if they're bad. They are, they have their moments, but I don't care. Revenge of the Sith was the angsty, I hate the world movie that I needed when I was growing up. I love it. Don't even get me started on fucking Anakin, because that's another can of beans we don't want to open, or can of worms. Oh, I know, Star Wars isn't for everyone. I definitely wasn't, I'm going to say this and I'm going to get shot on, but when I was younger, I didn't really appreciate the older movies, and I didn't really get into it until, like, the prequels came out. Yes, I was sweating. I got war flashbacks. Fucking Order 66. I got war flashbacks. Yeah, everyone takes Star Wars way too seriously. I think whoever enjoys whatever movies they want is allowed to enjoy them. I personally, writing aside, okay, y'all, I don't know if I want to say this. I personally liked the newer movies that came out, because I am not very involved with, like, the plot lines and, like, the core of Star Wars. So I really enjoyed the newer movies that had come out with, like, Adam, what the fuck is his name? Adam something. Everyone thirsts over him. I really enjoyed them. I really liked them. A lot of people did not. And I learned to keep my mouth shut about liking those movies, because I was like, oh my god, people do not like these movies. I was raised on it, so I grew up loving it. The good soup guy. Yes. It negates. Actually, I don't think I've watched the last movie. Star Wars fans are ferocious. They really are. Like, I see the fights and the shit that they get into, and I'm just like, oh my god. Y'all. I don't remember. Okay, I don't remember what the last movie that came out was for Star Wars, but I don't remember watching it. Did you watch Rise of Skywalker? I don't know. Yeah, we can talk about this. Sorry, I forget that I have to post these lives. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm talking y'all's ears off about literally all the fucking nerdy shit that I'm into. Anyway, Nico, I'll talk to you in the group chat. Everyone else, I will see y'all on Saturday. I love y'all. Thank you for sticking here with me while I go on and on and on about all these fucking things, and my ADHD brain just takes me and it picks me up and it doesn't drop me off. Anyway, I'll see y'all on Saturday. I love y'all. Thank you for staying. Bye.